We're not going to start until maybe 5 minutes, but for the people on the live stream,
You want to test it?
Yeah, that's what Jeanette's going to do right now.
Should I clip it to my shirt? I don't have like a good pocket.
I mean, Jeanette and I will be just.
Does that look dumb? Does that look silly if it's like in my?
It looks like it's as intended.
Okay, I'll talk into that.
Yeah. Hi, Graham. How you doing?
Good.
We're gonna get this.
How close do we do? How sensitive are they?
I kind of. Oh, they're pretty good. I kind of hold this here.
Great.
Then again, Ellen and Lois have used these, so Jeanette will let us know.
They're loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Is they could be on the louder end of the spectrum? So.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Yeah.
I guess Ellen is.
Oh, you listening? So is it? Yeah. Is this? Oh yeah. Right. Okay. So I'll just speak into this. Hi for everyone joining momentarily. Is fine. Okay.
Can I try clipping it on and see how it goes?
Clipping it.
Is this the problem? Is I keep doing that, and that's gonna make a lot of noise when it hits my chin. So I feel like I should hold it. Okay. Thanks, babe.
Yeah. For those of us just tuning in, we're gonna start in like 5 minutes.
I don't know. Is this getting any? Are they able to get sound?
That might be the good.
Is that good?
A good spacing.
And even if you gently hit it because of the fuzziness, you really can't hear.
Okay, it's not gonna make like a lot of. If it does start to get annoying, just I'll pick it up and yeah.
Great. And then Graham, you're able to fully just hang out for a second. I think there's gonna be maybe 10 minutes of front of house stuff.
Do you want me to just sort of sit?
Yeah.
down? Yeah. I don't.
I'll also come back up later.
I'll take off. Should I take this off then, or can they disengage this?
No, we're not that fancy.
Okay, I'll take this off so I'm not like.
I know, sorry,
I'll leave that here. I'll clip it on when we sit down.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I wish you do that. Is there any way we can get this news article come out where they talk where our active dramaturgs and our disabled actors kind of talk about these subjects a little bit? Is that worth sharing?
Yes, so if you email me the link, I can send it to everyone who attended and then and then we can
Terrible Wagner's story on it. And it was pretty much entirely about video space and like the disabilities team.
No, these are cool. We've had for our marketing budgeting, someone sent us a packet. We sent that out too. So
that just came out like 3 years ago.
nice. Okay. Yeah. Jeanette, can we put in your phone into that for the backup recording? Then we'll be fine. I think the video is going well. Oh, right. It's okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
I just gave you a
Hello. Testing, testing, testing audio. We're about to start in probably 30 seconds. Yeah, like the talking points, when I get to them, it'll probably be that order. Yeah. Yeah, my goodness, sir. Brilliant. Well, hi everyone in the room, and hi everyone joining us in the live stream. I think we're about to get started, and I think some of you might know a little bit about how our town halls operate by now, so you know there's a couple of front of house announcements. But also, I'm not normally here, I'm normally over here. And so Jeanette's helping us out, and Stina's helping us out, and Ellen and Lois are doing some great work in Australia right now with our Fringe friends. So you're stuck with me. um, front of house stuff, yes, things that we need to know, things that are very important. We're first going to do our land acknowledgement, little preview into what's going to be happening during the festival. We'll be sending out a land acknowledgement as well for all of you to use. Your venues sometimes also have land acknowledgements, just check in. But here at the Hollywood Fringe, we, with our access committee, came up with this one, which is a land acknowledgement. For those who don't know, it's a formal statement that recognizes and honors the indigenous peoples of the land we currently reside and do work on. The Hollywood Fringe acknowledges that we are on the unceded lands, specifically of the Gabrielino and Tongva and Chumash peoples, and our statement serves as a practice as we commit to furthering our connection to the indigenous communities of past, present, and emerging. And then we are currently at the McCadden. Aaron Lyons has been wonderful and helped us out here today. It's a beautiful space. Yeah, Aaron Lyons. Yeah. For those in the live stream, he just ran out, said hi, and then ran away. I know you didn't see him, but it was wonderful. So yes, it's very exciting here. For those of us in the land of YouTube and live streams, let us know where you're coming from. Also know that you can ask questions at any time. There will be a Q&A at the end that will pull all those questions from. Stina and Jeanette are currently looking at that and can either answer them in the moment or we'll get to them in the room in like the last 30 minutes of the panel. Yes. Oh, also, for all our town halls and workshops, if you have or need any access needs that aren't being met, like don't hesitate to ask a member of Fringe staff, and we'll do our best to accommodate. Also, if you need an interpreter for upcoming events, just email support@hollywoodfringe.org 72 hours in advance, and we'll schedule an interpreter. Yeah, we have them available for all of our events in person this year upon request. Also, some of you know these, some of you don't. I'm going to go through them. There are upcoming town halls and events. So hollywoodfringe.org/events will take you to all of them. We know some like office hours, we know some like town halls, workshops. And for the first time this year, a walkabout Fringe or a park in the Fringe. We've had the first day where we're at the park, Plummer Park. Really cute. I actually liked it a lot. There was like a bubble performer that just happened to be doing a birthday party, and I loved it. It was great. But upcoming ones that you should look out for. On March 24th from 7 to 9 p.m., we'll be having our workshop number 4. That's the marketing and ticketing at the LA LGBT Center. Then on Sunday, March 12th from 2 to 4, we have Town Hall number 3, which is guide, like the guide proof where all of the shows get a little blurb and how to navigate that. We'll be talking about setting ticketing goals, how to sell tickets, and getting press. That will be held at the Broadwater. And then in April, we are going to be doing our web sessions number 2, which is guide proofs ads. So focusing on the guide, focusing on the ticketing system and how to use ads. That's web sessions number 2. I did skip over and didn't mention web sessions number 1. That's this Tuesday. We'll be talking about how to use the back end of the website for producers, how to navigate setting that initial ticket price, flags, which we're gonna get into today, and all that good stuff that is just helpful on the admin side. Again, all of these will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. except for the park days, because we're just hanging out, and we don't need to record that. Like I said before, hollywoodfringe.org/events has the full list, including, I think now we've disclosed the office hours locations. And if not, then you get to know that we figured them out. So you'll find out soon. Oh, right. Okay, there's a couple of resources that you may or may not know of that will be super helpful as you're still in this stage of one, like creating your creative team together and getting your venue secured. So the Artist Hub, it's on the top right? Thank you. Yes, it was a quiz and you passed. The top right is the Artist Hub. That has all of the process of how to fringe. So it's a lot of information. You're really only going to be looking at the articles titled Phase 1 and then starting to look at Phase 2. I mean, feel free to peruse everything, but it is a lot of info. Also, the annual report that we did last year, especially the page that talks about the sell-through rate. We talked about it at the last workshop of like where to be budgeting with your ticket sales. Last year's sell-through rate was 59%, to give you an idea of where to budget from. And then in the Artist Hub, we also have budget samples from last year. So 10 solo shows, 10 ensemble, and about 5 musicals. Super helpful because while Fringe is a financially viable way, it doesn't mean that the cost is zero, and you just need to be aware of that. And again, for all these questions and more, support at hollywoodfringe.org. And then also, you can set up an artist one-on-one with me where we talk about whatever you want to talk about. Usually it's about Fringe, though, so that's important. And then, okay, this one I think most of you know, so I can quiz you on this if you want to answer. If not, I'll just tell you. But do we know when the registration deadline is? Yes, April 15th is the registration deadline. Do we know when tickets go on sale? May 1st is correct, yes. Do we know when previews are?
June, first week of June.
Yeah, okay, I will accept first week of June. It is actually June 4th to the 9th, but that is the first week. And then we then have our opening night party on June 10th. No shows will be performing then. Your venues know not to book shows then as well. And then from the 11th to the 28th, that's 3 weeks of fringing and shows back to back to back. And then the 29th, the Monday, the final Monday of June, is our awards and closing night party, which would be a lot of fun. And I will be a ball of emotions, very excited. So if I start crying, it's on that day, or any day. Don't be worried, it's okay. Oh, one last thing. Oh no, oh God, I have so many reminders. Okay, we're gonna speed through some of these reminders. Okay, reminder number 1. We have a code of conduct and an ethos. We will actually be talking about that a little bit more in depth in this panel, so I won't basically go down the whole line because much of it is covered. Again, I mentioned events, office hours. They kick in the last week of March, and they don't stop until the beginning of the festival. Super helpful for marketing, super helpful for getting to know your... Oh, yes, office hours are on Wednesday. Thank you. Office hours on Wednesday, the last Wednesday of March, and then every single Wednesday night until the first Wednesday of June, when that will be a different program that you all get to hear about later. You all know how to do your project pages, so I won't have to talk about that in the moment. Oh, yes, Instagram, social media, use hashtag HFF26. It's helpful, it's fun. Sometimes the staff likes to know what's going on. And so we support, and it's really fun. Anyway, 26 or 2026? Oh, HFF26. Yeah, no, that's a very good clarification. I think that is all the major stuff that I need to tell you. Oh, now we're getting into general newsletters. Most of you are registered with your project, which means you've opted in to receive emails from us. Jeanette and I are normally sending out emails about there's just so much that happens during Fringe, not to get left behind or anything, knowing what should be at the top of the weekly docket. So start opening those, regularly reading them. We are working on trimming them down so they don't look as overwhelming, because there's a lot. But just check your emails weekly. We send them about, Wednesday will be the hope. Right now we're changing over, but they will be sent out every Wednesday by noon. Okay, so before I get into this accessibility slideshow that talks about Fringe-specific things, I would love to do one thing I forgot for the live stream. I need to say who I am. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm Roddy. I'm the programs director here at the festival. Yeah, thanks. A visual description of me today. I'm wearing brown pants, some nice shoes, some coffee designed socks. I'm wearing a pastel type shirt and then a jean overshirt. I have curly hair. I've got brown eyes. I'm happy to be here. And I got started at Fringe in 2023 as a scholarship recipient. And then the following, thank you. And then the following year, I became part of the administrative team, where I've continued to really just love my role. That is the last thing I needed to tell you. So we can actually start. Before I get into this panel, or this slideshow, I'm gonna invite our panelist. And so, Graham, if you'd like to come up, please. Yeah. If you would do me the favor, we'll clip your mic and you're all good. But if you would do me the favor of introducing yourself, your preferred pronouns, mine by the way are he, him, and a visual description.
Sure, of course. My name is Graham Wetterhahn. I'm the artistic director of, is this picking up when I'm like hitting my face or no, it's okay?
It's a little delay, but yes, you're good.
Great, cool. My name is Graham Wetterhahn. I'm the artistic director of After Hours Theater Company here in Los Angeles. My pronouns are he, him. Visual description, I'm wearing black boots, black jeans, blue t-shirt. I'm about 5'7" with green blue eyes and brown hair. There we go.
Perfect. And can you tell us a little bit, before we get into, because I know we have some questions prepared, can you tell us about your theater company and the show you guys are actually currently working on?
Yeah, so my theater company, After Hours, has done a little bit of everything. Right now we're focusing, we just got our first physical space as of sort of the beginning of the year in North Hollywood. We specialize in, I could call us a theater company that specializes in immersive design, immersive and interactive design. So we were originally nomadic for about 10 years and now sort of have a physical lab space, but that's actually not where the show that we're doing is. I started just doing traditional plays and musicals, and then in 2018 we did an immersive production of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that sort of expanded my mind about what could be done on stages, and I think that led me down the path of how do we push the limits of theater in all sorts of directions. So some of that was digital and live streaming, some of that was EDI work, and then now we're working really obviously on the show and accessibility and how do we push the boundaries of theater from that perspective.
Yeah, and the current show happening, yeah, please.
Yeah, the show that I'm currently working on is called Room by the Sea. It's playing at Outside In Theater in Highland Park. It is this is the camera? Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Great, just making sure. It's a triple co-production between my company, After Hours Theater Company, Coin and Ghost Theater, led by Zach Davidson, who's coincidentally also the lead producer at the LGBT Center, so you might get to interact with him. He actually developed the piece along with our writer and director, and then the Outside In, which is a new theater in Highland Park, and Jessica Hanna, some of you remember Jessica Hanna from Bootleg Theater. This is their new space, new company. Zach Davidson originally developed the piece. I was brought on in 2022 or something like that to try and find to do it. Co-productions were the thing happening, right, in the 2020s. And we looked for about 2 years unsuccessfully trying to find a wheelchair accessible venue. Now, a lot of venues were accessible. The show that we're doing is a retelling of the Icarus, Daedalus, Minotaur myths kind of mashed up, but the Icarus character is a wheelchair using actor. And so we needed to find a space an intimate space that was accommodating towards a wheelchair using actor. That was way harder than I think anybody expected. There was no space that we found that was, many were accessible from an audience perspective, you could roll in, but for example, even in this space, right? To get to backstage, you'd have to, maybe there's a way from the back door, but it would be very hard to, the backstage spaces were just not very wheelchair accessible.
Next door, I saw the Romeo and Juliet, and she was in a wheelchair the entire time.
That's great.
That particular space is great for it.
But I will point out, it is tricky, and like we do have some spaces here at Fringe that are accessible, and we'll explain later how to toggle that when you're like looking for your venues. However, there is a difference between actor accessibility and audience accessibility.
Yes.
We do have some theaters in the Fringe sphere where you can just like walk on directly, which is really exciting. But
The
yeah,
backstage spaces aren't necessary.
it's still. Mm-hmm.
We have an actor. Our lead actor. He has cerebral palsy, autism, and is low vision and uses a wheelchair. And he likes to say that ADA accessibility means I can get into the building, and access means that I can do something once I get into the building.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really powerful statement. And so anyway, so this space that they built in Highland Park outside in theater is beautiful and incredibly accessible, and we're very grateful to them. In fact, we had, we'll talk about how sort of we go about this later, but for example, we needed, Cole, who's the actor, needed a accessibility, like a bar in the changing room like you have in a bathroom or something like that, so he could change in costumes. And without even blinking, they spent $800 to put that bar in. On them, they didn't ask us to pay for that. So, and they're, as part of their co-producing, they've donated the use of their space to the show. So we're very grateful to them.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you mentioned, and I did want to talk about it, and we'll probably bounce around.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning how there are 3 like producer leads on this project, and I know I've seen a lot of like, a duo production companies coming together. But could you explain a little bit more on what was the decision for 3?
Well, it was basically Zach and I were looking for a space. We could not find a space that we felt was satisfactory for the show. My wife, Michaela, who's sitting in the audience, she was talking to Jessica Hanna, who runs this space, and Jessica, it was in construction for several years, and Michaela said, hey, is this space going to be ADA accessible? And Jessica said, yeah, of course. And she's like, okay, you got to meet Graham and Zach. And so we did a walkthrough and just absolutely fell in love with the space. If you guys haven't seen this space, you absolutely should get down there. I mean, you can come see our show, which is running for another few weeks. But just in general, they also have a bar. It's a really awesome space. They do a comedy and improv show most nights of the week. So when we found that space, Jessica offered to come in, and the outside in team offered to come in as an additional producer. And so that's how we got to 3 co-producers. It was yeah. It also helps that everybody is extremely kind and generous and is doing the project for the right reasons, and it fits sort of in different ways into every company's mission statement. So it actually, there's always collective action problems when you're doing a co-production or a triple co-production or whatever it is, but it's actually been an extremely smooth and easy process.
Wow,
And it's nice because, like, for example, last night, Jessica and the outside in team were opening a show at Boston Court, and so I was able to come and cover, right? So it's nice.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm now going to look at some of these questions, but one of the things that we were talking about, I mean, that just ties in great, is accessibility for an audience versus accessibility for your actors.
Sure.
What is one of the things, or what do you think is important for audience members to know before they buy their ticket? Like, there's a thing where you can message them.
Yeah.
Just as a regular theater experience. What are those things that you're like, those are the main things I always want to try to hit?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I want to start this conversation by saying I'm learning, so there's lots of things that I'm going to say that I might immediately be wrong. That we're constantly learning. Our Axis dramaturgs, I wish, could also be here to join me today, but they were unavailable because we're doing our relaxed performance for like neurodivergent audiences today, so that everyone is on site for that. I think the stuff that we generally try to make sure folks know is parking information. Definitely stuff about, we're getting some
I think we're
alarming.
gonna close the door.
Yeah.
Aaron's got it, there we go.
Great. We had a car alarm going off in the back for those of you who couldn't hear. Parking situation is most important. In this show, we have captions, live captions that play in every single performance on the stage, sort of in the center back, which we have an ASM queue with the show. Attached to that is also pre-recorded audio description for folks with low vision, and they have 12 headsets that we give out, and we've reached out to a few. You have to do some outreach to make sure this stuff gets used, but we've been able to use that quite a bit, which has been lovely. You had talked, I know we briefly talked about content warnings. I think content warnings is always a tough one, right? Because there's always the balance of you want people to feel safe and comfortable and not be traumatized by something they see on stage, and you don't want to spoil the show. And how do you balance those two things sometimes? And so I think we have found that an opt-in situation is, if you would like to see the content advisories, click on this link, and that sort of gives you that information. Is that the correct or only way to do it? Absolutely not. Is that the way? Our current show is not terribly triggering, so I think it felt like that was appropriate. We have some mild reference to suicide and violence But that's about it. It's not overly, I mean, not that only that, but you know, it's not the main theme of the show.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I think that, because I understand wanting to be surprised and wanting to experience theater as it's happening. I love to, as an audience member, go in blind, but I have had the situation where I go in with a friend and I'm like, oh, we all want to see theater like this. And I think, oh God, it was a really big moment, I think. And it was our dear dead drug lord at the Kirk Douglas. And I was like, I'm gonna go in blind and I'm gonna experience it. And for those who know the context of the play, it's very, it's a lot. And so we then had to I think we just sat in the car for 30 minutes and just sobbed our eyes out. And I was like, oh my God, I've taken someone, and like it was in the program, which is super helpful, but like when we're rushing into the theater, we didn't open it. And it was a huge learning lesson, at least for me, when I'm like, okay, as a theater creative, but also as a friend bringing someone else into a theater show that I might not know about. I was like, okay, there is a level of due diligence that I need to do out of care for my fellow audience member and my friend in general, that I was like, okay, I'm gonna absorb this into my theater going experience and practice forever, because it is a wild roller coaster of a ride, that show.
Theater you shouldn't be forced into a situation that makes you uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
I mean, in that way, you shouldn't be given a trauma response in a show that you're seeing. Obviously, some theater is intended to make you uncomfortable, but you are hopefully opting into that feeling.
Yeah. And we also, I mean, and you've clarified this with this statement too, but like we're talking about a gray area here. And so there's no one broad blanket answer. There are festival guidelines that we'll get into of what we should say, like, hey, it's best to follow this guideline, but so much of the work that we do on the fringe, is that gray area work. And so we do have to sometimes ask a member of staff, like, hey, I have this piece in my show. I want to really ask about this and see if I'm doing the proper due diligence. And staff will always be down to talk about this, whether in the moment or being like, oh, I think this is a longer conversation, or we need more information and context for this. But we definitely want to have that conversation for your festival experience and for your audience's festival experience. I'm gonna hop back to these questions, but
I was just also offering access is somewhat of an unconsidered, or it's a newer field. I mean, even when we were going to look at what are the best practices for audio description, the guidelines haven't been updated in 15 years. So this is really like a subject that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about as a community. So I think it's really cool that you guys are already sort of making sure that's at the forefront. And it's also a practice that's much easier to, when you've been doing something the same way for 20 years, it's a lot harder to add some of these things. When I assume most people who do Fringe, not all, but a lot of them are younger or newer producers.
I think it's fair to say.
Ish. Yeah. And so adding some of these practices into your producing style early, I think is the right way. Builds good habits. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason why we run these town halls and these workshops. It's, not everyone coming to Fringe has produced before. And I mean, rarely is that the case when all the stats break down. So it's a lot of like, here are best practices, here are guidelines, and we're all coming from different worlds of like, oh yeah, I produced in LA for 15 years, for 3 years, or I just moved and I experienced a different Fringe and I want to know Hollywood Fringe. So these conversations are like, here's a blanket starting point and a blanket tool chest so that we know and can all like communicate in that way. Which is incredible. One thing I wanted to add about venues in Hollywood is also something to be aware of is ADA compliant restrooms and which venues have them, which ones don't, and which ones have teamed up with local businesses. So like I know there are a couple of theaters that the coffee shop right next door, they have a good relationship where like, yes, you are able to use their ADA restroom. It's something to be aware of. I know that all of our venues are independent businesses and come from different perspectives and places, but also financially, it's just, the whole Hollywood space is struggling right now. And it's hard to meet the expectations that we really want to meet, but it's how do we create and find those ways while also wanting, the most access we can have. Going away from the venues and the audience, I want to talk about the creative team. And so how throughout the process are you navigating that, having those conversations, and then supporting the access needs of the team itself?
Sure. So the first thing we did, and I think this is going to be a field that's really important, is we hired an access dramaturgy team. We actually hired one Access dramaturg who is was not a wheelchair user, but uses a cane and has a few other visible and invisible disabilities. And he said, hey, I'm thrilled to be on this, but I also need to bring on my friend who is a more authentic wheelchair user for this show so that she can advocate for our actor in the space. And so they came together. That's Dean Grossbard and Lee Rosen, if any of you know them. And they started a company through the show called accesscollabs.com. And so they're starting an Access dramaturgy team, which would be available to all of you guys. That if you reach out or ask questions, they would be thrilled to talk to you guys about Access if you have any questions. And they are much more educated about this and much better representatives of the work than I am, although hopefully I'm doing them a little bit proud. And so that's the first thing we did. And we also hired a casting director that specialized in casting wheelchair using actors. Because it was very important that we actually had a lead and understudy who were authentic wheelchair users and not just an able-bodied actor that was in a chair.
Yeah.
So those were two first things. When we talked to cast, just things that we do every day, we did an Access sort of onboarding. In some cases that was written. For example, our lead actor is low vision, so we didn't want to make him type, so they had a phone conversation with him. And that allowed us to add things to the rehearsal process, like somebody who was very sensitive to scents, so we did no perfumes or colognes, ideally, or minimal scents in the rehearsal room. Somebody who's really sensitive to fluorescent light, so we tried to use as much natural light or stage lighting as possible. Things like that to find out how to make people more comfortable. And it's also important to recognize you're never going to be perfect. And sometimes needs directly contrast other needs. Sometimes there's accessibility. To be accessible to one person means you're being inaccessible to another person. And hopefully everyone understands you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah.
And you've got to just sort of, as a producer or as a team, sort of figure out where you want to be prioritizing.
Absolutely, and I think that also is touching on one of the things that, honestly, if the one takeaway that, and it'll get hammered home a lot throughout this workshop, or this town hall, sorry, is communication is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And if you can clearly say where your limitations lie, where you're able to excel, and where it's like, I'm sorry, we don't have the structure for that, that is going to help your festival experience with your audience and your creative team way more. I know that sometimes we have fringe shows often that are like casting within their communities and people they know, and it's other times it's not. It's people they don't know, and it's like, you know, the beginnings of a company, and it's like wanting to have that level of transparency will serve you so much more than attempting to operate at an assumed level. That really shouldn't be the case. Yeah, communication will be key. Just out of curiosity, Jeanette, what's the time check? Because my phone's running the live stream.
Oh, sorry.
So I actually don't know. You're doing great.
Oh, it's 2:35.
Okay, then we're good. We're good.
Great.
We're good. If you're good, I'm good. We're just gonna.
I'm totally good. Yeah. Oh, I was going to say the last thing we do is we do daily Access check-ins. So before every rehearsal starts, we all get in a circle and say, you know, how where are you at today? You know, anything we should be aware of or anything. You know, they don't have to like specify, but just say I might be running in and out of the bathroom, or I'm feeling a little anxious today, or I'm feeling tired. I might need to go sit down. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we can do to help, and if not, they say my needs are being met, or I'm taking care of my needs, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's been really good. And I think that, like you're saying, consistent communication allowed Cole to say, hey, I know it's a big ask. Can I get this bar? Is that even a possibility?
Yeah.
Where he was like, normally in a different room, I would never ask this in a million years, but I feel comfortable enough that I can ask this of you guys. And so I think, and like you said, if you say no, people understand. Like, for example, we had our Access team. We've been doing a lot of different types of Access. Of course, we have a tactile model of the set. If people want to touch it, we have the AD, we have sensory-friendly performances, ASL performances, captions, a host of other things. But one of the things they wanted to do was, can we do a touch tour of the set?
Yes.
And the set, which for those of you that don't know what that is, which I didn't, I learned about it from them, is you kind of understand what it is somebody with low vision going through and getting to touch the set before the show starts so they have a sense of what they're looking at. Our set was not constructed with that in mind, and so from a liability perspective, the person whose insurance the whole show was on said, hey, I'd prefer us, the set's a little bit delicate, there's some sharp edges, some things aren't sanded properly, I don't want to injure an audience member. And so that was the one time we had to kind of say, it's a really great idea, we love that, but unfortunately in this show we can't. Conversely, I do immersive shows, and so like every immersive show I do is built to be like interacted with.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the project as well.
I have a question now, 'cause
Yeah.
I'm curious. So you have a model for this show that they're
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to- was that something that you asked a scenic designer to do? Was
Yes.
that is really
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, he already likes building models, so we knew he would be
Okay.
into it.
awesome.
One of the things I think that was really important with this show is we knew going into it that we were going to be exploring like radical accessibility and what that means and what's possible in an intimate theater space. Particularly, like we're fortunate that we're all none of us have like CTG or Pantages money, but we were able to spend a little bit of money on that, and so. We really wanted to explore radical accessibility, and we made sure we were building the team that wouldn't just tolerate it, but would be enthusiastic and embrace like that exploration with us from a cast and a crew perspective. And so he was very excited about that.
It's really cool just because I've in just doing freelance scenic design, I've the model making is at least for me like a practice that's getting left behind, and I really want to always go back to it, but I think using it in another way that's not simply just like the first day of rehearsal, here's the model, which normally now it's all in like Vectorworks or just some program, but for an accessibility need is super cool. Yeah. That's just me geeking out. But I want to talk about your work in immersive theater because we do have a blossoming immersive theater category.
Fringe.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's slow, obviously it was much more it was a bigger thing pre-pandemic, and then as like Fringe's numbers are coming back, some of these smaller categories are now having a resurgence, which is awesome, just with new challenges, right? But just speaking about immersive on a broad angle, how do you handle setting boundaries, asking for consent, and giving, depending on the experience, so it's the boundaries, the asking for consent, and then giving patrons the opportunity to opt out.
Sure.
And how you've handled that in the past.
Yeah, so I want to just be completely transparent that immersive historically is very bad at this. It's a big problem in the industry. Particularly, I'd say I see it more as an issue in the haunt community, the most issue. But even in designs, a lot of the time they'll be like, tell me a traumatic moment about yourself right now in front of this audience of people you never know. It drives me crazy. It's my least favorite type of immersive design, and I hate it. And so we are very conscious not to. We design for. We took this from theme parks because a lot of my immersive team comes from theater design and theme park design. You design for something called waiters, swimmers, and divers, and so we're always trying to make sure that whether if you're just a theater, if you're just somebody who wants to sit down and kind of enjoy the world, you can do that. If you want to, chat up with some of our actors or explore the space, you can do that. If you want to deep dive and discover all the secrets, open drawers and things, and get into trouble, you can do that too. In terms of when we have to ask audience members to participate in our shows, we usually follow the 80-20 rule, which for those of you who don't know what that means is if I'm going up to Roddy here, I might go up and I might like present my hand, but I'm never gonna touch him.
Right, and then
You would, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we make sure that there's always an opt-in for our audience. And I think it's just we never force any audience members to, not just physically interact, but even just conversation. If they're not interested in it, we train all of the actors in the rehearsal process to how to sort of just elegantly remove them, without making the audience member feel bad.
And just for a little more clarification, so the 80-20 is like 80% of the performer coming to meet, instead of like meeting me halfway. I'm gonna go up 80%, and then it's the 20%.
You finish it,
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
90, 10, 80, whatever
but
thing.
some breakdown.
Yeah. Just basically say, hey, would you like to?
And they're like, oh yes, yeah.
Or then okay, great, no problem. Yeah.
Super important because while immersive theater, we do have a lot of clowns.
Yeah.
And whether or not you're watching on the live stream, you're watching here, we have a couple specific things because we're so lucky enough to have a big blossoming clowning community. This is something that we do have to be aware of with clowns that often want to play with the audience. And it is so much fun and it's so exciting, but there are ways in which we need to understand and be aware of those boundaries. And I know that there's a lot of different ways people approach this, but I've never heard this 80-20 or however the breakdown is. It's very interesting to me. Wow.
I also think we were talking about this, what should audience know? If we weren't talking immersive specific there, in an immersive specific show, you should be very clear with what things the audience might be encountering.
Yes.
If they are going to be I think they call it like light or conversational touch. If it's that you can opt in or out, but then you also clarify if you can or can't opt in or out of what subject matters. Is there going to be, just like you would like a content advisory, right? This is the kind of interaction you might be forced. You might have to crawl on the ground. You might have to do light physical activity. You might have to you know, I mean, when people are like, "We're gonna tase you," like you should fucking know you're gonna get. Excuse my language, but like,
No, you're good.
I've heard of shows where I've heard of shows where they tase audience members without consent, and I'm like, that's insane to me.
It's
Yeah. Do not do that.
You will not have good enough insurance to do any of
no.
that, so you just beware.
I don't, you know, I think it's like not like a full taser, but like, you know,
No,
like
but it's unexpected shocks that like, it's this thing of like, sometimes you're an artist like, oh, I don't want them to know about this. I'm like, no. We gotta know what you gotta know when you're getting that ticket, when you're getting that experience, because everyone's coming in from different levels of it, and especially, I'll jump ahead very briefly, but I'm not gonna talk about it in depth at the moment, but the use of any firearms or weapons, we have a whole section to discuss about that. Every venue has rules about that. Fringe also has rules about that. It is something that clowns, ensemble, all of that. There's also some equity stuff that, you know, we think is good advice to follow. We'll talk about all of that stuff. But again, it's like, you gotta know what you as the artist need to know and communicate effectively what your audience is going to experience, especially in those moments where I'm like, oh, it's a fun surprise. I'm like, nah, it's not that fun. It's okay. Maybe don't. I think I have a couple, like, as some closing questions. You've talked about it a lot, actually, and I just want to see if there's any stone left unturned. What creative ways have you seen theater makers incorporate accessibility in every aspect? And you've kind of talked about a few that I had no idea about. Also, I'm happy to also like create a, what's it called? A little blog post where we can also take some of these questions and then forward them as well to our audience members as well, whether on the live stream or just online or everyone in the room. We have all your emails because you signed up for this. But I wanted to ask you about that question.
Yeah, so I pulled up our Access dramaturgs. Roddy very generously given me some of these questions ahead of time, so I had our Access dramaturgs who can't be here give me some answers to some of them. And this is one of them where I think their answer would be better than mine. They talked about somebody, Doris and Other Voices. This is somebody who talked at one of our talkbacks. We do regular talkbacks about Access at Room by the Sea. That they had they found that the rehearsal and workshop process was made much richer by having folks with different disability, and they would encourage folks to listen, play, yell at each other, and just use that process to enrich the development of the show. This is something we didn't get into that you sort of talked about, is Cole's disabilities, quote unquote disabilities. Like, the character was written as a wheelchair using actor. That's all. Cole, the actor, our lead actor, has both autism and low vision, which means he can basically see color and shapes but can't read. So we had to actually like make specific colored glow tape so that he could see his cues, because he couldn't even see that. But one of the things that it made really powerful is our relationship between our lead girl character and him. Like, she has a scar from her, she gets a major scar. I'm not going to ruin too much of the show. And there's a really powerful moment where in the script it just says she shows boy the scar. And in our version, she takes his hand and runs his hand over this physical scar because he's low vision. And it adds this really, really dynamic, powerful moment that is maybe my favorite moment, or one of my 2 or 3 favorite moments in the show. And that came from being in the room and embracing the accessibility component.
Yeah, no, that's incredible.
I don't know if I think I just answered a different question, but
it's just like it just seems a very theatrically fulfilling way of doing that. That's super effective.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool. One more thing as we close out, because in case I forgot about things, but also just general advice that you'd like to offer, or I don't know if they please.
A couple things that I can think that we didn't get to touch. I think when you guys are approaching access, it can be very intimidating, right? Because you can't do everything, and it can seem very expensive. I think the way we've found to approach it that I like best is the way you would approach most of your creative process, is blue sky. Do you guys know what that means? Or like approach it with an abundance mindset. Not can we do this, if we can do this, it's how can we do this? And you might find that there's certain things that you're unable to do. For example, that touch tour we just decided we couldn't do. But there's a lot of things that we didn't know how we could do audio description, and we figured it out, or live captions, and we figured it out. And we might have said, oh, it's going to be too expensive, we're not going to do it, or we don't know how to do that, so we're not going to even explore it. If you go into a process with the intention of trying to make it accessible, I promise you there's creative solutions, and they don't have to be expensive. particularly at a Fringe level, some things might, like as amazing that you guys have ASL interpretation as an option. That's incredibly expensive. It can be, $400 to $1,000 like plus per night. So that's an incredibly generous thing to be offering. But for example, if we, like we have captions every night, but captions in ASL are for two different types of people with hearing impairments, because people who are born without the ability to hear tend to prefer signing in ASL, and this is not universally true, but this is what my understanding of it is, and people who have less hearing oftentimes will prefer to read the captions. And so it's like different languages almost, and so it's important to have, it's do the best you can with the resources you have, but always think about what's the most you could do, and then you'll probably, if you start from a position of what's the most you can do or what's the most you think you're able to do or want to do, you'll probably end up higher than if you said, oh, I don't know if we can do that. Yeah.
No, I completely agree, and I think especially here at Fringe, like there is the aspirations of wanting to meet that, but then also like if you're thinking about it practically, you'll be really surprised at what you are able to accomplish by what's like offered by our venues. Like I know there are a few that have assisted listening devices that we've even asked to borrow for like, say our opening night parties and our closing night parties when we're like giving out awards and things like that. This is a service that some venues have, and it's something that you just need to check in with them about. And also like these touch tours is a thing that has happened at Fringe before. And I know sometimes like we go into black box theater space and like, oh, there's not that much around. Like, no, you'd be surprised at what you can offer that and what that will mean to an audience member and their experience. The last thing I want to talk about with that is, oh yeah, and then captioning. Like so many of our venues, we're lucky enough to have projectors, and it does sometimes take a time where you need to transcribe it. But like, regardless, it is very well worth it in the end. And I think back to like, if we're transcribing these things for like, on one side of like, if we can transcribe Italian and opera, we can transcribe whatever we want to get the message across. Speaking from personal experience, I will say that sometimes there's the idea of like, if you're like my play is in Spanish and it's important to me that I don't translate it, like know also who your audience is and keeping in mind what the work you're creating is for, and sometimes that might be a larger statement. But also know then that there's a trade-off of that accessibility, that then you are making those conscious decisions. It's just something I've seen a few Spanish-speaking productions do for various very legitimate reasons, but then knowing what they're offering and who they're wanting to offer theater for, when so many people sometimes haven't experienced theater in that way. It's just the thing that came to my mind. I guess the closing thing is if there's anything I forgot.
In terms of if you are doing a performance, one-off performance with accessibility, so if you have one show that's going to be ASL interpreted captioned or something of that nature, please promote it. And this is something that we wish we are still working on, and probably something we're going to talk about in our postmortem for the show is make sure you're promoting these events like they're their own event, not just, don't put it as a footnote and thing like, oh, this is our ASL performance. Really promote the crap out of this being the ASL performance. Make sure the people that might benefit from that get to see it. We're doing this sensory-friendly performance today, and so I happen to have a friend at Epic Players LA, which is a theater company that works with primarily neurodivergent actors, and so I sat down with Jessica. I said, here's all of the information. Please pass this along to your team. Here's a discount code. Oh, expect to give discounts if you want these folks to show up.
I think here at Fringe, we're not any strangers to discount
yeah,
codes.
Right.
There's a reason why in the last one we're like, hey, try to put your like general price a little bit higher than it's previously been done, but know that you're going to have different communities and friends that you're going to give custom discount codes for, and you can create as many as you want. It hasn't broken the site yet. I think someone created like 300 before, and our site didn't crash. It crashed for other reasons, but it was really good. This is great. It was fun. But also, there is a function on our website now where you can flag, because again, like we're saying, ASL interpretation, if you're able to do that, it is expensive, and so it might not be something you're able to do every single night, but if you have an ASL performance happening during your run, you are able to toggle that on the website. We'll talk about that more as well on this Tuesday when I can show you like screen sharing the project page. And then that lets us as staff know, and then we do compile. I'm currently compiling a bunch of subcategories for marketing reasons, for accessibility reasons. I think there's maybe 150 plus shows that I'm like trying to go through all of this through, and it is important.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, yes, you're marketing your show, but Fringe can assist as a larger programmatic entity. And then also, like, if our audience is asking for specific works, we are going to try to do our best to, like, here are the 50 shows that you are basically, that you've requested of these needs, and so you can have a fulfilling Fringe experience. I would have probably forgotten about that, so that is a great thing to mention.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Well, and I think with accessibility, don't get discouraged if the first time you have an ASL performance, nobody comes to use it, or only one or two people. Anything is good. We talk about this with DEI work as well. Like, if you're like, oh, this primarily white institution all of a sudden is like, this is going to be the Latino play, and then we don't engage that community. Like, oh, why they didn't show up, so we're not going to do that kind of work again, right? It's a real problem that we've had historically in theater and in LA theater, and so I think we have to continuously engage, these audiences to make sure that they know they're welcome in our spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in the Fringe realm of that all, it's like, know that the producers before you from the previous, like, it takes time to foster those communities. Like, obviously, it's those things where it's like, it might not be the most attended thing right out the gate, but whereas a show will have like a 3-weekend run and like can kind of build that momentum, Fringe, we have a month-long kind of thing, but also know that your previous producing cohort of predecessors have also been building the structure, also wanting to come to that level, so that it just gets a little incrementally easier next year when you're trying to tap in, where people know about the work and know that there are shows that can fit their needs. And it's super cool to see that, where we have shows or our audience members who are like, I had no idea about these 2 shows, but I'm now regularly seeing these types of theaters that meet my accessibility needs. Because I went to that one show last year.
And they'll be your most enthusiastic and excited fans and ready to come back and support.
Well, one, thank you so much. Of course. I know that I want to keep promoting, and I want you to talk a little bit more again about the show. But you also mentioned that there was a recording that we're able to share, not of the show, but
Spectrum, Carolyn Wagner and Spectrum One just did a story on our access team and our lead actor Cole, and the new Outside In space that just came out, I think, Wednesday of this week. It focused a lot on the access component of it, and sort of, you can physically see some of the things that I talked about here. So I'll share. I'll send that link to you, and you can send it out, and also give you the Access Collabs team's website, so you guys can reach out. I'm sure they would be happy to chat with you.
Absolutely. That's the thing to mention too, and so that's a continual conversation I'll have with them. But we have an access section in the Artist Hub. Some of them are ways to reach out to organizations or individuals who offer services in these realms. I know that Sign Language Company, Nigel over there is who our point of contact is, and they every year are in the packet offering their services. So it's a place of like, where do I even start? Like, that might be a good spot. Also, take it onto your own. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll do a little plug. Our show's running an unannounced extension that I'm announcing here. We're running through March 24th. We run Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Sundays are at 3 p.m. All other days are at 8 p.m. And we're running for the next 2.5 weekends. So we'd love to see some of you there. If you want to see some of this access in real time, we also have a wonderful exhibit by artist Laura Brody called Opulent Mobility, where they take wheelchairs and walkers and mobility devices, and it's a tactile exhibit of really beautiful like walkers and wheelchairs and things. That's in our lobby. So I hope to see some of you guys there. Thanks for coming out today. It's called Room by the Sea by John Guerra at Outside In Theater.
Also, it was sent out in the newsletter for participants, so this shouldn't be the first time you're hearing it.
And we have a couple of postcards here.
Which is very fringy, which is great. But yes, thank you so much.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Applause got the right for Graham. Thank you so much. You just set that on right here. I'm gonna have, if it's all right, Jeanette, our operations and marketing manager, join us. Is that the title? I should keep the mic close to me. But Jeanette, if you wanna sit where Graham was sitting, I think that it'll be fine. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I'll stay. That's okay. I wanted to leave, but no, it's fine.
Actually, I'm gonna totally walk the camera. Oh, great.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I got the mic right here. No worries. I think we'll be taking a 2-minute intermission while we check out our tech, but since you're all here, do we have any questions so far? I think we're about to get into all the Fringe specifics. So no worries there. Are we back? We're back. Okay, never mind. The show, our regularly programmed scheduling is fully able to be back. Let me just check that this is working. Yeah. Oh, thank God. That's
So
great.
fancy.
Okay. So, hi, Jeanette.
Hi.
Jeanette is our operations and marketing manager here at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Do you want to introduce yourself by giving us your pronouns, a visual description, how you came to Fringe?
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it is.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name's Jeanette. I use she, they pronouns. I have shoulder-length curly hair, a big white headband, glasses, gold hoop earrings, a black shirt, jeans, black shoes, and a big smile. I'm happy to be here. And then I was fortunate enough to be a scholarship recipient in 2022. And it was a really great experience. I learned a lot. I'm not originally from this area, so I really felt like I was I joined the community with like welcome arms, and that was really, really comforting. And then I joined the team in 2024, and I haven't left. So I'm very excited to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
excited.
Yeah, I'm excited,
Fringe is
yeah.
a lot, and we're a small team, and Jeanette's amazing. And if you don't know who Jeanette is, now you know. So we're just gonna go through this this slideshow and talk about what we just talked about with Graham was basically like a larger LA theater overview of accessibility, or just theater and accessibility in general. We're kind of gonna get into the nitty gritty of how it works at the festival, what tools you have at your disposal, and kind of best practices, honestly. So it's gonna be us going back and forth a lot. But yay! This is our accessibility statement. I believe Wiley, who you will also meet during the festival, helped create this. Who created some lovely infrastructure for us to work off of. But yes, the Hollywood Fringe Festival is committed to increasing accessibility for audience members of all abilities and backgrounds. This includes disability access and interpretation services, as well as providing clear ideas of what we can and cannot provide. Again, it's that level of accessibility. Ooh, I'll also mention, I'm gonna email all of you this slideshow. Please take your photos and everything, because it's super helpful. But I'll also be emailing it out. That's what I learned last year, is that we can email this out, actually, and it's super helpful.
Now we know.
Right, but so what we can and cannot provide as a non-curated, primarily volunteer-run festival. So as I'm saying here, we have Jeanette here with us today, myself, Stina, you know of Ellen Lois, there's Carly, there's Wiley, and then there are some people that come on for the festival time, but we're truly a very small team of, say, maybe during the festival, 9 people.
Yeah.
And we have a very robust and very grateful, we're very grateful to have a great volunteer program that we will explore, and you'll hear more about as the festival goes on further and closer. But like for things like opening night, closing night, even heading or helping out our HQ space, it is something that we cannot do without, and so we're very, very grateful for our volunteers. Yes. They are amazing. Accessibility flags. So Jeanette, do you want to talk a little bit about this? And then I can also talk about some things. I believe all of these are still viable on the site. I know that we've had a website facelift, and so certain things are now added. I doubt many things have been redacted, but yeah, if you want to kind of talk through some of these and what they mean.
Yeah.
I know we talked about some at the top with Graham, but
Yes.
please.
Yeah, I won't, you guys can take a look and look at what makes sense for you. We're having it's the upcoming web session is on Tuesday, right? That goes over the
Correct.
website. So
Yes.
don't worry if you're like, wait, I don't even know how to add that on your project. We'll get into that on Tuesday, and then the video will be on our YouTube for you guys whenever you need it. But these are just some examples, and really, I mean, Graham had such great insights, so it should like kind of continue that conversation. Really thinking about your show, like, yes, we're artists, but like it's time to think about logistics, and as an audience member, what someone may need coming in, like even like sensory friendly, that's something to think about too, what that means. I'll talk about primarily visual and primarily sound performance. So there's a bit of a confusion sometimes with our artists, understandably so. Primarily visual performance. Some artists think, like, for example, they bring a farce and there's a lot of physical comedy, and they're like, oh, that's primarily visual. Not necessarily. There's still a lot of talking and speech. It's very fun and exciting. Physical, I love physical comedy. But primarily visual, I would argue, would be more movement-based pieces, right? Like a clowning show, not really too many words. you know, I mean, for this, you know, you could sit there and someone may not even know the language, like English language, but they could still pretty much understand what's going on. I would, you know, the vehicle of storytelling is really based on movement or visuals, performance art, whatever that may be. And then, you know, sound as well. I mean, if you, that could also go in, I don't have an example from Fringe, but I've been in some shows in LA that you walk in like a dark room, which is very exciting. I've never done that before, and you put on headphones and you just like, you know, you're experiencing everything through
I
sound.
think it was in 2023. I think the show was called Sound Trip.
Ooh.
They in the Broadwater Black Box, I think they were all a creative team of sound technicians.
Ooh.
And none of them were actors, but they really wanted to play with. None of them wanted to be on stage, I should say, because some of them were performers. But they ended up renting or just owning a bunch of disco, like silent disco headphones, and they gave every single audience member in this theater of 50 people these headphones, and then they selected 2 to be on a separate frequency. And it was a completely auditory journey of like a radio play that was acted right in front of you by taking 2 people from the audience, and they were just given instructions of movement to do or of lines to say. Something that I really wanted to check out, but it sold out immediately because it was like, what an interesting concept. But that's what comes to mind in the Fringe level.
Yeah.
And things of that nature.
Yeah, so this is just some examples. Thank you, Roddy. And then flashing lights, of course, as well. I will put in a personal anecdote. This is something which I'm going to get into in a bit. I have asthma. This is a new experience for me. I didn't realize I had it a year ago until I had an asthma attack. And I didn't know what was happening. So now when I look at shows, I have to consider smoke and haze. And so, and you know, if you're familiar with asthma and there's a lot of things. If I'm not having a great day, if it's not well managed one day, I know, okay, I may not be able to see the show today. That's okay, but I just need to know that before becoming an audience member, and having a asthma attack wouldn't be fun for anyone involved. So something to consider, I'm also a performer as well, so thinking too, as you're talking about your creative team, your cast, you know, making sure, I think Graham even talked about like sense, you know, everyone has different triggers for things. People, you know, it's really important that, you know, for example, myself, I know what triggers me so I can communicate that. It's all about conversation and communication. Priority early access seating, that I would, Roddy, would you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So it's still totally feasible here at Hollywood Fringe. I know that most of the venues operate under 15-minute load-ins, your performance, 15-minute load-outs. There are some more boutique venues that, like, if you have a piece that you're like, I want to make a piece that's 3 hours long, then they'll work with you, but not every venue is like that. But it's like, okay, so you traditionally have 15 minutes, and it's okay, I think, to peel back the theatrical curtain a little bit sometimes. I know some people are like, no, when the audience enters in, like, you know, I load it in 10 minutes, and then I load my audience in 5 minutes. Totally possible. I've seen audiences come in like 2 minutes. But it's like, oh, I want them to really be immersed in my space for very valid reasons, but I also think that it's like, you can still allow them early access even 5 minutes into your piece if they're the only ones to get them settled in. A lot of that will be done for various reasons, whether it's like, I need more time to, like if a person is like, oh, I feel able-bodied enough to get up the stairs, it just will take me a second, and I don't, you know, for various reasons, people have levels of comfortability with that, and needs of the sort. So something just to be taken into consideration. I'm gonna quickly jump over to size-inclusive seating, which kind of comes into this a little bit. So, you know, right now we're in this theater that has your traditional theater reclined chairs with some bars here, but then I also see that there's some like foldable chairs that are a little bit more easier, that are a little bit more size inclusive. I will also say that some venues do have bench seating. They don't always bring them out, but it is something that is available. And because our traditionally shows at the Fringe are like, live on average about an hour, the back strain isn't as significant. So sometimes bench seating is the most accessible. I know for our HQ spaces, that was a fun thing to kind of build and kind of make kind of modular.
We had options.
Options from stools to benches to chairs to couches. And a lot of venues have very different things. I think like Activist Kitchen comes to mind, where they have like couches everywhere, and it's really interesting. Of course, we have like more raised seating things. It's just things to ask your venue. A lot of it will be like, oh yeah, we have a bunch of acting blocks that we normally use for actors, but I'm like, if they allow you, if it's fire safe of your capacity, to add more seats in that way, then I think it's fully okay to have that conversation. And also, a lot of these will be identified on patrons. They'll like notify you, which also goes to notify the venue. As long as both of you are communicating and have a plan in place, you'll be all set. I think that the following slide details a little bit of how to do that, but I want to make sure that there's not anything that we haven't talked about here. Because Graham talked about tactile preview tours, priority access seating is also something we just discussed. Let me see here. Yeah, and then knowing as well, like, where the wheelchair accessibility is possible and isn't. I know that in some spaces, like, for example, for a performer, Aaron Lyons of the McCannon Theater brought out this ramp here to show that this can be put in place. That is possible to get onto the stage, but I don't necessarily know if there's always enough space for an audience member to come for this piece. And then knowing like the Zephyr, it directly goes onto the stage. And they've made a deal with their local business partners, the coffee shop right next door, to use that restroom to make it an ADA compliant venue package kind of thing. Just things to note of what you want to do and what's important to you when producing, like what is the main goal, who's your audience, and how do you want to best make them feel comfortable in that space. I think I'm gonna move forward. Oh, right, I'll just shout out, yes, some venues do offer assisted listening devices. Is there something else that you want to mention that I know that the Broadwater has an assisted listening device. Yeah, they have I believe they have a good 8 for their 4 spaces. Again, it's just a matter because they run 4 spaces, knowing, you know, when your patron notifies, you'll get a notification, they will get a notification. It's a matter of making sure that everyone has enough. For example, if it just happens to be that 3 theaters need them, it's like, well, how do we make this work, basically? I'm sure there's 1 or 2 venues, but I just know that the Broadwater, because we've used their
asked
tech
them before,
We've
yeah.
asked
So
them. Yeah. Should I move forward?
I think so, yeah.
Brilliant. Yes. Okay. So something I'll cover on Tuesday, but also just a little like play-by-play, right? So you're gonna go to your project page. Everyone kind of knows what their project page is, right? It's okay if you don't. I can explain that on Tuesday. But you're gonna go into the admin tab. That is a tab specific to primary producers. You can create your collaborators to give them admin access. I can also guide us through that on Tuesday. But essentially, giving them admin access gives them access to that admin tab. Anyway, but you as the primary producer automatically get that. Nobody else can see that as an audience member. And then you're gonna click edit on the individual show you want to edit, and then click any of the features your show may have. This will be important when it's like not every show is pay what you can. That's something that you can toggle there. And also not every show is ASL interpreted. Those are 2 that will be super helpful and relevant to this that we're talking about here. And yes, yeah, like you gotta check every single show that you're doing, because sometimes people are like, oh, I want every single show to be pay what you can. Totally fine. It's just you have to go in and toggle those. It's super helpful for us on the back end when we're talking about shows and what they offer. Yeah, I think that's about that. But again, it'll get explored more on Tuesday when I'm like screen sharing. I'm gonna have like a little test project that we can all go through that. But definitions. So I think we've been kind of doing things like that, but we actually really haven't talked about sensory-friendly performances so much. Jeanette, do you want to take this one?
Oh, yeah. I will just kind of like, not quite verbatim, but go through it. So, a performance with slight adjustments, including reducing any jarring sounds or intense lighting, plus even like a separate area, quiet area, so in case people are overwhelmed, they have space to kind of, you know, just take it time for themselves. Again, kind of what we're talking about, the project page, you would, which you'll go over on Tuesday, we'll keep repeating that, but you'd have to edit each individual show, like performance. So if, you know, if that's something you're not able, if that's something you are trying to make available, but you're not making it available every performance for whatever reason, very important to put that on a specific show. And of course, like Graham said, which I think is really important, it's like, doing your best to learn and promote to those communities who may benefit from it the most, because there's a lot of people within this community who really need this, and they haven't been going to shows in theater because they didn't realize it was an option. So let them know it's an option with your show if that's something you're able to do. And then Yeah, and then what adaptations you will make to give as much information as possible to those searching for this option. I think that's also a really good tip for any accessibility flag. Just like making sure you're very clear and communicative. I think we kind of keep saying that too. Just, just make sure you're very clear and upfront with audience members so they know what they're getting into. You want to make sure you get butts and seats, but happy butts and seats.
And then
so.
some examples I've seen at the Fringe is like, for example, take this arrangement of lighting. Right now, obviously, you guys are not as lit, and we are lit. For some sensory-friendly performances, I've seen where the house lights are a little bit higher up while the show is happening. I've seen where the entry door has been left open. I know you do get like some outside sound, but like it is just helping in that way. And then also all of the sound design, instead of taking it to its full like regular quote-unquote performance, it's then taken the main sound to half so that it's not as jarring. As well as like, there is lighting that then gets modified. I think strobe is the biggest one that gets modified as well. Sometimes, I've seen it sometimes just been foregone. They just don't do it. Or they will say like, there will be a cue that's like, oh, and at this point strobe happens, and they don't have it, but they just mention like, this is what happened. For sensory-friendly performances as well, it also can lead into early access into your theater and to kind of guide them. Sometimes I've seen shows that are like, okay, welcome to the performance. Let's talk about the show and the content for 10 minutes and what to expect. And I think even bringing actors on stage. Traditionally, I've seen it done where it's the more malicious, quote unquote, characters where they're like, don't worry, like what is happening on stage is not what is actually happening or occurring. There's theatrical magic. Also, getting rid of smoke and haze. I do want to touch on this smoke and haze thing because a lot of your venues probably won't allow you to do that. Yeah. It's a question that you need to ask, and more often than not, you need a fire marshal approval for specific types, and that's a journey. And you just need to check in with your venues. But then again, there are other ways to go around this. It just depends on what you're using and how you're using it. But I don't want anyone to get in trouble. And I know our venues are also very aware of this because at the end of the day, it's their space.
Yeah, it's their space,
So just be aware. Just be aware of that fact because it's important. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. We've talked about live ASL performances. We have mentioned captioning. And again, you may need to, in order to do captioning, bring on someone to help in the booth or to communicate. I know some venues don't allow other people to come into the booth. So communicating to the venue operator, manager, and technician of like, this is a QLab thing. This is a PowerPoint that needs to be running. Here's how we've marked up the script. We will have a workshop on how to tech your Fringe show that kind of answers a lot of how to communicate to a technician. So don't worry about that. Yes. Oh, and then we talked about like whether or not you have language that isn't English and whether or not you want to caption it. We did talk about that as well. We have talked about it, but yeah. For audio description, this kind of goes into it too, and I mentioned at the top, there will be an email sent out, I think like the beginning of May, mid-May, where we give an audio recording of the land acknowledgement, as well as like a welcome to Fringe kind of thing. Oh no! Well, Jeanette's gonna take over because I have a charger, so I'll go up there and fix that right now.
Okay.
But
great.
We've
Let's
already
see how
talked
long
about primarily visual and sound, so I'm gonna let you run that. It's just this plus bar.
Mellow guy?
That's
Okay.
all it is. And if you want to go back, it's that one. But I'll be back. I'm gonna go plug in my laptop.
Well, that's so funny. Love that. Yeah. Well. No, thank you for telling us because we would have just kept going. So, well, yeah, I think he kind of finished up audio descriptions. Yeah, we'll be sending out those in mid-May. And even some of your venues might already have pre-recorded speeches that they want to use. Again, they'll let you know, but it's just an option, so we give you options as well. And you can always record your own, again, communicate with your venue as well. Again, sensory advisory, just letting people know if you have sudden sounds, loud music, other elements that may be overwhelming. And yeah, it's really good. Yeah, post on your project page and at the door. Because again, if you're also, not everyone does this, but if you're selling tickets at the door, or maybe people didn't read it on the project page and then they see it there, or like someone is bringing a friend and they didn't realize it. It's just always good to be as clear as possible and making it accessible, making the knowledge of your show accessible to others. Flashing lights is a big one. images and or projections. We talked about smoke and haze. Most likely everyone knows, there's a lot of things with that, but
You're doing great, Jeanette.
thank you. It scared me. Oh my gosh. It was very supportive, but it scared me. And then, we talked about this priority early access seating. And then this is a quick note as well. This is something possible audience member may need. It'll show up, what is it called? The what is it called? When the names of ticket people, when you, guys, I've had a really early morning. So, when people buy tickets and then for your show, all the names of ticket holders, what is that called?
Will call list?
Will call. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's horrible, guys. I have a degree in theater. That's horrible. Anyways, will call. Will call. It'll have that bolded as well, so you shouldn't be able to miss it. And then I think that one is pretty intuitive. But yeah, just in case anyone needs general admission, and then size inclusive seating. I think we talked a lot about that. Yeah, just something to think about.
We talked about play restrooms,
Yeah.
accessibility, and assisted
Listening
devices that
devices.
some venues offer, but not everyone does. Let's keep going. Our checklist.
Here.
We're gonna take a brief pause here and just survey the room if there's anything that we just talked about that generated any questions. Because this is just one of the town halls. There's just so much information.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue that they all have so much information.
True.
But it's a lot all at once.
This one's a very specific
Yeah,
type.
yeah, of course.
Okay, so when it talks about doing the audio descriptive, how does that work? Is it happening at the same time, and is it interrupting what is happening on stage?
Yeah.
Is it private? How does that? I'm just curious.
Just to reiterate for the live stream, the audio descriptive, how does that work in general at Fringe? Kind of the idea. So sometimes it's used as a specific performance, like accessible night, where it's okay, in lieu of the sound effects, there will be a talked through version of it. Sometimes it requires a separate program. If you're running stuff off QLab or you're running off of whatever software you're using, sometimes you make a duplicate and replace sound effects and say you just verbalize what's happening, right? Or sometimes it's the actors, or I've seen it where a stage manager or an ASM is off to the side, kind of in a similar position where a interpreter would be, and they have the script alongside them, and they're basically reading the, not necessarily the stage directions, but the things that it's an effect goes here, a light change happens.
And so the dialogue would pause during that time.
Yes, yeah, kind of if you would picture not a table read, but the next level up of a stage reading where sometimes they don't necessarily read all the stage directions. It becomes a more modified version to kind of create that accessibility. It isn't, that's kind of what that is. I'm trying to think of any other way I've seen it done, other than, I've seen them done where you get listening devices and it's a completely different experience. I know that can be a little bit more trickier on a Fringe level. So I understand the complications. I think that this way that I've seen on a Fringe level works out a little bit more, just because there's less tech that can go wrong. What I would say, and even if this is for ASL interpretations, if you have an ASL interpreted performance, or you have an ASM reading off sound effects and that kind of thing, give them a light. I've seen a lot of productions at the university level, at professional levels, that they forget completely that they need to give their ASL interpreter a light for anyone to be seen. I will also add that make sure that you give priority or hold off seats. So if you know that you have ASL audiences that need ASL interpretation, to place them closer to the interpreter itself. We do this at closing and opening night. We reserve some seats at the front. Because it won't serve them as much if they're in the back here and the interpreter's here. It can be a little trickier. Pardon me. Did that answer a little bit more of that?
Thank you very much.
Really? Yeah. Are there any other? Yeah, of course.
For the sensory advisory recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
are there any guidelines, for example, if I'm playing music and
Mhm.
I want it to still be, not put off people who are sensory sensitive.
Yeah.
How many decibels or something?
Oh, interesting. So Oh, yes. Thank you, Stina. The question is, what is the recommended, if we're doing, if we're modifying sound experiences and we're trying to keep that accessible in that way, what is the recommended, volume level, basically?
Yeah.
And I know from being on the streets of Hollywood Boulevard when we had to do our busking program, that you're not allowed to go over either 20 or 25 decibels.
Yeah.
However, if you actually go onto Hollywood Boulevard and you just like sample the decibel levels, it's actually like 80. It's a lot, and everyone has like you're not allowed to have sound speakers and things, but it's Hollywood Boulevard. Everyone has it. It's wild. So what I recommend and what I've seen is people take their thing to half. That I think that's the biggest thing I've seen. If they continue, like it's either they omit it or they bring it to half or to quarter of the planned volume level.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, but I know that's not the biggest help.
But-
Wondering for just like a show that has music kind of interwoven,
Mm-hmm.
that it like would just be a level that I wouldn't have to put the sensory advisory, or is it like literally you play any music you need to like say that there's a sensory?
That's a really good
Oh.
question. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that is a
think-
good question. I think it's also case by case because it's like take for example a musical using tracks. Sometimes they're just not at that position where they can bring it down because there's like my performers need to hear the track. I need to be singing. There is some circumstances where like you're not able to achieve that level of accessibility, and it's totally fine with the medium, the art form at this level. I'm trying to think of other instances where you have music playing. A lot of it comes down to I think live musicians where it's like they're not plugging in their speaker, it's just acoustic in one way. I'm trying to think of any other way, but we can talk about this more as well because I'm curious on like what the specific case of your show is and how it pertains. And then it might end up going into one of our accessibility articles because I'm like, yeah, this is a
Yeah,
good idea.
we might. That's a really great question in terms of like the guidelines of what that could mean.
Yeah.
We'll have a conversation. We might put in a blog post. What I will say quickly is that for right now, something I was told a while ago from some show I was doing. I couldn't tell you what it was, but what's the intention of the music, right? So if the sound is to jar people, well, that's really clear cut, right? I would argue you keep it down. If you're having a sensory sensitive performance, maybe don't have it at all. But if it's just like a part of your show interwoven, again, we can talk more of it. I think you're in the clear. And if anything, if you were thinking about like sensory advisory, just think about like how loud it is, which of course I don't have like the decibels on hand, but that's a really great question. Just think about the intention of the music and the sound. And if you think that for someone who again is sensitive to that might be, it might be sensitive to that, just put in your shoes.
I will also add that it's less so because music, unless it like jars really quickly into it, it tends to have like a
like a
build up and
build, a
everything.
crescendo,
What we
a
really see a
crescendo,
lot of
yeah.
is door slammings, loud
Yeah.
gunshots, dogs bark, like things that are
Thunder,
really quickly
like
thunder that come out of
something-
nowhere. That it startles me all the time.
Yeah, that startles me, yeah, but,
and
you
like
know.
if it startles me and it's not like
Yeah,
it's
and
things
someone
to
who
keep-
is sensitive to it, yeah, I think
Thank
that's
you,
kind of
yeah.
more where it's pertained to.
Let me click forward. Going. Oh wait,
more
sorry.
question.
One more question. Yes. Yeah.
Remind me, at the beginning of Fringe shows, can somebody kind of step in front of the audience and maybe say a few things?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I mean, also at the end of the day, it's your show.
Yeah.
You have so much ownership over it. You are fully able to come up at the beginning of your show to say something about it. I've seen some really cool stuff actually with that kind of form. I've seen directors dedicate each. It was a historical piece, and they're like, oh yeah, this is going to be dedicated to this individual who survived this moment, as well as doing the land acknowledgement themselves. We require that there is a land acknowledgement. How you decide to present that, there is a lot more theatrical freedom in it. And then also you are more than welcome to, and it happens a lot, give a closing speech. And usually this is for work that's like, hey, this is still in development. If you'd love to meet me on the street and talk about the work, it's totally fine. A lot of them will then tend to shout out other shows in the audience. It's a little bit more free form. But again, just knowing that Fringe moves fast, keep that planned schedule in your timeline. So if your show is an hour long and you have a 10-minute or 5-minute speech and you now go to an hour and 5 minutes, you need to talk to your venue about like, oh, I actually don't need 60 minutes. I need 75 maybe to give me a little bit of that cushion. But totally fine. Yeah. Did I even say what the question was? The question was if you could give speeches in person before your show, and then I added and went on a whole tangent. But great question. 3:23? It was close. I asked like 2 seconds ago.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Right. I was like, how did you know that?
Okay, good. I'm gonna go into this. So there's a lot of accessibility flags. Not all of them will apply to your production. Sometimes people get really excited and just start clicking off everything. And there's no way for us to really check that. So it's kind of a please do your due diligence so that we can do our due diligence. And again, it's the communication. Most important from this slide is being honest about what you're able to
Yeah.
provide and what you're not able to provide. Oftentimes, it's a collaboration of communication between your venue and you as the artist, what you're able to provide and what your venue already has in place. Some of us may have already booked venues, so just check in with them. And then those that haven't, shop around. Brilliant. In addition, so you'll be checking off accessibility flags, both with content warnings, so I'm jumping the gun here, but both with content warnings and accessibility flags. It's good to put that at your project page. You know how you have a long description? Put especially your content warnings, but also your accessibilities and what performances, put that on the project page for your audiences. Because I know that there's a lot of the toggles that your audiences can find. There's also just potentially a fatigue, for fringers who are like, I want to see so many shows. And by the time I'm clicking through and seeing everything, it's just so much. And putting it in the project, the long description of the project page is super helpful. I've seen it done where they will put it in bold or they'll underline it. And then the rest of your bio of the show and the description happens there. Keep in mind, the long description of the project page fully able to be edited even after the show's closed, honestly. You do get admin access to the whole time. But especially during June, you're adding those reviews, you're adding feedback, you're adding all this stuff. It's fully able to be edited. What isn't is the short description. And the short description is mostly your 3-sentence pitch that then gets printed into the guide and has to be locked in by April 15th. Just side thing, make sure that you don't have any typos. Jeanette and Lois and a lot of the team, but not me, because it's a lot. And I'm it's so much. They are really trying to make sure and checking all of that.
And we don't know if it's an artistic choice or not. We don't know. We really don't.
Truly,
and we
it
respect
happens.
it. We want to respect it because it happens. That
Yeah.
was with my show when I put it up. It was an artistic choice. So I'm glad no one touched it in that way.
Yeah. I will also say, because there's mentions here of the box office and who to contact on the day of, you don't necessarily have to put that contact information on the project page's long description, but you all get a function where you can message your ticket holders for a particular performance directly, and that will be super helpful as well. Go for it.
So I know that you can do some discount codes that are associated with certain tickets.
Yes, yeah.
Can you message people that bought a ticket with just that discount code? If that makes sense.
Yes, you can. So what's gonna happen is you will get the will call list. Thank you. The question is, can I reach out to specific patrons who have used a discount code? And if I can message them separately than my larger patron base. It is possible. It's not necessarily common, so there's a little workaround. But essentially, when you get your will call list, which you have available to you at any time, but you'll probably want to use maybe 2 days before, the day before the show, you're able to look at that. You're able to toggle by price, and then you're going to see who used the discount code. You then will have the data for that. You then go to your message patrons function, which is the same way you're going to get the will call list. They're right next to each other on the buttons. Again, this will get explored more in web sessions number 2, and we can also just talk about it later. But you then get the message patrons list. You can toggle which people you want to message. Like for today, when I was giving everyone LA Marathon, be aware, I could have sent it to all of you, or I could send it to select people. And so if you have that other sheet that says, I had a code that was $10 off in all caps. I can now see who did that, and I can take it and message them directly. So it's a 2-step process.
Gotcha. Sorry, one more follow-up question.
Yeah.
So if we're maybe asking ahead of time, do you need an extra time to get seated?
Mm-hmm.
Can we ask those questions via when they're checking out, and then we can message them ahead of time
Yes. So the question was, if patrons, is there a way for me to message patrons as a primary producer asking if they need accessibility needs? 2 things. One, the guest, when they're buying their ticket, there's is there anything else you need to know in regards to accessibility? So they can write in a description there. That gets sent to you and the venue. So, but if they haven't listed it and they don't know it's an option available to them, you are fully able to reach out to them after they've bought their ticket and check in and ask about accessibility needs. I believe, was that the? Yeah. Okay. And if not, we can talk about this more too, because the site can do a lot, and sometimes they're like, yes, when it was created 15 years ago and updated somewhat recently, we were like, yes, these are the functions that need. But there's always functions that we're like, we need to add those. We need to keep massaging it. But it's a very robust website. Thank you, Ben Hill, who is creating and updating the website.
Yes,
it's amazing.
A lot of work.
It's
oh my
a
gosh,
lot of
it's
work.
a lot of work. I don't know how he does it.
Okay. Yep, we've talked about confirming. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just hit that. That was great.
talking with your venue. When you go to hollywoodfringe.org/venues, and there's like a bunch of toggles, some of those are accessibility related for what you want to book. And then, your venues, just like they have a fire safety plan, a lot of them do have accessibility plans, those that have had those conversations with teams, which many of them have. So they usually tend to have something in place. And if not, then you get to create it with them, and that's always cool too. But no, they usually have them. Content warnings. Okay, here we're gonna get into a fun thing. We've been discussing content warnings and which ones to use. I think in the following slide, if I remember this correctly, there's a list of content warnings that you could think about including.
Yeah.
Oh well, no. I'm gonna talk to you about how to add content warnings.
Before we get
there.
So
we've already mentioned. Add them to the long description. It's super helpful. I was just jumping around. So actually we've already talked about this. But using language like brief mentions of, in reference to, depictions of, the depictions of and in reference to are super helpful. And I also implore just this is me getting on a soapbox. I will get on a soapbox later in this presentation as well. But there are many theatrical ways to depict a violence, or either inflicted on to someone or inflicted on oneself. I would just implore that you investigate and research how to do those theatrically. I think sometimes we want to create a visceral, raw emotion and give that to the audience, and it absolutely gets accomplished. I think that there are ways of doing it other than it just being literal, that I've seen done very elegantly, and that leave a bigger impact on audience members. This is a Roddy take, where I'm like, just be aware of what you're doing and how it will affect your audience. And sometimes the more theatrical way is just as effective as the literal way, because it's hard when you're in a rehearsal room and there can sometimes be a power imbalance between actor and director, and wanting to accomplish what you're doing, like as an actor wanting to accomplish what the director's asking. It's just hard to navigate that room. We, for the first time, actually have now a section in our discount codes, intimacy coordinators, that have experience with Fringe and also are willing to give discounts to Fringers for either a one rehearsal visit or something larger to that extent. You can personalize it. I do recommend, if you do have subject matters that are, one, really intimate or talk about really heavy subject matters, to at least reach out to them or reach out to people you may know in your creative spaces, because it's just better than not. You don't want to be flying in and not knowing what's going on. It's just better to come in with that information. I'm getting off my soapbox now. And we'll get onto it later. Okay, here we go. What are some things that are content warnings that I should be aware about? So yes, we have rape or sexual assault, abuse, whether that be physical, mental, verbal, or sexual, self-harm, suicide, violence, death and or dying, pregnancy and or childbirth, miscarriage and abortion, and blood. There's another slide that also has more. It's not the full extensive list, but it is a pretty common list of things included. The blood one as well. People can theatricalize blood. I've seen it done with fabric and things like that. I think it's important to mention, especially if it's creatively necessary to your piece. Or you mentioned that it's hyper realistic, in which case you need to talk to your venue if they allow blood in your space. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about the next following one. So yes, torture, jump scares, mental illness, eating disorders, and diet culture. Any kind of discrimination and or bigotry, whether it be racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, ableism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, mentions of drugs, alcohol, substance abuse, police brutality, guns or weapon use. And now I'm gonna get back on my soapbox. So there's a lot here to discuss. I kind of want to focus on the last two, specifically because of the time that we're in with what's happening in the U.S. of A. So we there's always a lot of as artists responding to what's going on. And obviously, even in last year's June festival, we had to come up with plans on how to deal with ICE raids and how to make sure our audiences and our artists and our general community was safe. And I understand that as a response, we will be seeing, I think it's just bound to happen in scanning projects, that we will be having pieces of work that are talking about what's going on with these ICE raids, with what is honestly happening in our backyard, and it's terrifying and it's not fun, and it's something that we should handle delicately and be aware of. And I definitely don't want to dissuade you from doing the work. I do want to hope that you come in with a level of informedness and a level of caution. And similarly, how I was talking about depicting violence theatrically and not. Knowing what your audience is able to handle as just speaking from my own level of it all, as I've been intaking it, I've been very excited and honored to be welcomed into spaces to see theater that is discussing what's going on. I love theater. It is my safe space. I enjoy watching it. It sometimes is very hard to be in an audience and watch something that is theatrically aiming to be hyper realistic, to the point where I have to, as an audience member, disconnect for my own safety. Doesn't mean I'm leaving the theater, but it means I'm literally shutting my brain off and I'm disengaging. And I don't think that that's what you would want in your performance, to have your audience disengage in that way. And then obviously on my end, there's a moment where I will like come back to and be like, I feel comfortable and safe to engage again. But I do want to caution how we navigate that. This is a completely gray area, so I'm happy to discuss this, but it is less so a, like, here's a broad thing. I'm just asking that we have conscious, we're just aware of our actions when we're doing this. And as long as you're engaging in those conversations, I think that's like the beginnings of those steps. The other part of my soapbox is gun violence. We had a lot of clowns last year using guns or using gun-like objects.
Yeah.
And this is another super gray area. There is in this slide, I believe,
It's
later on.
It's later, yeah.
But essentially, Fringe, every venue has different rules for weapons. If you are bringing a weapon into your venue, whether that be a plastic toy like kid's sword, you need to communicate that to your venue. And it is their space. They can veto it, and they can work with you to find something else. But like, it fully ranges, you know? And Fringe is a wild, blossoming space, but like on an equity level, do not ever point a gun at an audience member. Do not ever point a gun at your fellow artist. You treat that gun as if it is real. We've seen clown shows where they literally write gun on a piece of cardboard that is an L-shaped thing. It's very funny. It's hysterical, but it's also contextual. And again, you treat that as a real weapon, and you have to be aware of how you're using it. This is, again, another major gray area, so it is a case-by-case basis. So if you're watching on the live stream and have questions about this, please email us at support@hollywoodfringe.org. But again, even like on the equity rules, if you are, aiming a gun at someone, the audience will not know if it is literally here or here, and I'm never aiming directly at my scene partner. It's just something important. I think that when we work in these intimate spaces, we think that they can really see everything. And while that is true to some extent, like this, which is behind Jeanette, and this, which is in front of Jeanette, will be theatrically fulfilling. Also, if you're pointing guns and it's going out to the audience, being aware of the aisles and where you're able to go above their heads is traditionally something I really recommend. And then, yeah, there are instances, because we can't monitor everything, and it's not really our job to monitor everything. It's our job to tell you best practices.
Yeah.
But there are moments where I'm like, I came into a show and I did see a member of the audience, or I did see an actor pointing a gun at an audience, And in my non-Fringe theater going experiences, I have seen someone do this and it have a very significant effect on the audience member to the point where the show had to stop. And it was an impromptu intermission and it disrupted the flow, which I don't think was the intention of the creative team. And then it was resumed again. Like, you have to be aware that, you know, there's a cultural context of living in America and the violence of a gun, even just on stage. Aaron, I'm happy to have you chime in on this as a venue manager and a theater person. But I will, if you want to come up here, or I'll give you this so that the live stream can also hear you.
Yeah, so they can hear you.
This is Aaron Lyons, everybody.
Hi. So one of the things, one of my questions is, I know back in the day, because I've done theater in this town for 1,000 years, if there was the noise of gunshots, like blanks or something that was loud enough, we had to inform the non-emergency LAPD that at 6:45 on this Friday, there will be a simulated gunshot, because I've been in shows that the cops have raided before because someone walking by reported a gunshot.
Wow. Crazy.
I did not think about this.
I
Wow.
didn't know
Okay.
this at
Wow.
all.
I don't know if that's still part of the rule. A lot of people don't use blanks anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're usually recorded.
Yeah.
But if you are using blanks, that is definitely something, because it's not just the actual physical thing, it's the sound that triggers a lot of people. If you've experienced gun violence or were in the military or law enforcement or any of those sort of things, the sound of a gun just kind of does something to some of us. It was just like, yeah. So that was all I had to say.
Thank
it was
you,
more
Aaron.
a question about the LAPD than anything else, but.
Yeah.
that's-
I would say I've comparatively to the Fringe history book, been here for a very few amount of festivals. I haven't encountered using blanks anymore. I feel like a lot of artists have moved away. Doesn't mean it's not gonna happen.
Right.
And especially why I'm glad that you're bringing it up. I think it's something to be discussed with the venue. And then similarly to the smoke and haze, it's like if you are using smoke and haze at a certain level and extent, like you do need to communicate with the LA Fire Department and notify them. I think the same goes for here. I think we sometimes forget that we're in theaters and we're like, oh, but we're sheltered in our theaters. But as we've seen, a lot of these spaces kind of lead out directly into the public sidewalks. And not every theater is as soundproofed as they might want it to be. Something that comes to mind is like, if I'm a theater manager and I run 4 spaces that are all next to each other, that is something to just common courtesy, modifying your volume if it's super loud, but also being aware of what you're playing and what's happening in the other theater kind of thing. I will do some more research on that one because I'm
that's a great
very
point.
fascinated about that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But yeah, I mean, communication, venue, and then I'm gonna look into that one. But do you want to think?
I just want to quickly add something. Just for everything we're talking about, we're not trying to get you. We're not trying to be like, oh, you didn't put this in your project. But no. These are just tools, especially since we have a lot of our artists are first-time producers. So this is maybe new for them. We just want to give you resources. This is also sort of an educational thing as well. And again, if you have questions, we want to have a conversation with you. We want to help you. So send us an email. We're just giving you the resources and thinking critically about your show as well. It's just really important. And there's 2 things I'll say before we continue, but just something came up is one, these are real topics that affect people, whether it hasn't affected you or not. These are real experiences for people. So just taking that in consideration with the content warnings. I understand that there are conversations at theater of not wanting to spoil things. And again, there's a gray area. I get it, but these do affect people every day. And this is just my personal opinion, take it or leave it. But I feel like once you have an audience member in your seat, you're taking care of them. It's your responsibility. Their emotions are real, So just taking that into consideration and making sure they're just aware beforehand. And then I will say one second thing just to think about, because I'm gonna forget later. I have ADHD, I'm not gonna remember this. But what I will say is in terms of accessibility and content warnings, just again, it's really important to think critically, not just for your show and for audience members, but for yourself. You never know when in the future something may trigger you. You never know. And unfortunately, you learn in a really unfortunate time, but now you're aware later on. So it's just good to have this knowledge, even with accessibility. Again, for me personally, the smoke and haze, I've never really cared before. And now I'm like, that's one of the first things I checked. That's okay. But now it's something I know. And it's something I didn't know about before, to be honest. I didn't realize it was something that would trigger me. So again, everyone's different, but this is just a really, it's just, something to think about. And also we're learning too. Every year we're changing. I mean, the amount of times we've already been like, we need to look into that. That's a good question. We're learning too. So this is something that we're growing together. So we're just, okay, yes.
Right.
I just wanted to add
Something I
that
want to add, because we were talking about this panel in preparation, and you had brought this up, and then I wanted to talk about this too, where it's you're absolutely more than welcome, and I think you have responsibilities as artists to challenge your audience. But there's a difference between, oh my God, what's the word I just said? Challenging. There's a difference between challenging them and scaring them.
Yeah.
Scaring them in a way that it evokes like high levels of fear.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I saw this or read this or watched it or something, but it's this idea of like, there is a suspension of disbelief when you're watching performance. And someone was equating it to magicians, and I was like, what do you mean? I'll listen now. What are you talking about? And it's this thing of like, when you're watching a magic show, you understand there is magic and it's not real. The woman isn't actually being sawed in half, and you're more in marvel of how the trick is accomplished and that it's able to be pulled off in such a flawless way. It's the same thing where that there is a suspension of disbelief and you are an audience member in a room experiencing things with everyone else. Do not make your audience complicit with something that may be really dangerous. It's not a comfortable position to be in, and it's also not a comfortable position to be in as an audience member, having to be like, is this real? Like, did that bottle really just break? Was that actually a dangerous thing
breaks
that happened?
them out of it. And now they're concerned for your safety.
Exactly. That's our tight five. We'll go on to the next thing.
Great. Yeah, we're
How are we doing on
47.
47. Okay, good. We'll see. Well, we got.
Let's go. Okay.
We've already talked about personal accessibility requests that
Yes.
audiences can message you. This will get explored again on where that lives in web sessions number 2 when people are buying tickets. But essentially, yes, the audience can ask for requests. Again, if you do programs, they may ask for large print programs. It's totally okay, in my experience, to be like, we have a large print program, but this is a loaner program, and we'd like it back by the end of the show. At the end of the day, printing programs, even a one piece, is expensive. It adds up.
Yeah.
So if that's something you want to do, just know about being aware of large print. We've talked about extra assistants getting to their seat. Something we didn't talk about, which is copy of the script prior to the performance. This is also an accessibility need, especially if there are audience members where English is not their native language, or if your work is not in English and you still want an audience member to engage. I've had that happen a few times where people were like, I'm so excited about this Spanish performance piece. Would it be possible to obtain the script? I understand that there is some sometimes nervousness about sharing that script and asking, like, please don't, show that elsewhere. There are ways to do, PDFs and also like PDFs that only open for 24 hours. Happy to talk about that more. I understand that some people just feel very protective of their work, as you should, but also know that the member asking for that accessibility is rarely trying to do so in a malicious way. It's more so like, I just need to understand what's happening in this show. Specific seating request.
Yeah.
So front row, we talked about how if you have an ASL interpreter, you most likely will want to reserve a couple seats for the ASL requested audience member who will want that service, or for hard of hearing or visually impaired patrons as well. Yes, let me just keep going. We've talked about communication with audience. I feel confident that everyone in this room knows what I'm talking about when I say communicate to your audience and communicate with your venue. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This one we will take a second on. Do you want to take a stab at this one? A little breakdown of some of these?
Yeah, I feel bad. You've been talking a lot. Okay, yeah. So I was like, let me help this guy out. Okay, so box office practices. Again, this is another part of your show. We get stuck in the artistic world behind the scenes, but also like that's your audience members' like first introduction to your show. So making sure we're being clear and communicative and taking care of them from the beginning. Clear directions and signage. And again, even like we give big like venue signs to all of our venues that say like Hollywood Fringe venue, whatever number. Like we're doing our part as well. So, and your venues might have things as well, but just making sure it's very clear, like where your show is, all that fun stuff. Consider your audience's experience. So again, just being their experience isn't when they sit down, it's when they come to your venue, or even when you email them. That would be another interaction as well. Yes, and this is a big one, I think, for everything we kind of talked about. being hyper aware of not tokenizing audience members with accessibility requests while also working your hardest to ensure their access need is met. So everything we've talked about today, like we said, realistically, we want to be accessible to everyone, don't we all? But there, there are restraints, and that's okay. But we have to be clear and communicative, and it's not, hey, it's fun to add all those flags on the project page. I mean, it could be a little game if you want, but there's like real people who really do look into this and really depend on those flags that you may be putting on your shows to come in and experience. It's not just about how they're real people. They're real people who really have needs. So just make sure, like, if even for the script thing, right? If for whatever reason, maybe there's like a copyright thing, like who knows, and you really can't provide it, just be clear and communicate. Be like, I'm so sorry, I totally understand. Whatever, any sort of need, but just make sure they know.
I'll also add for a second here. So some venues offer to run the box office, and they have someone dedicated to that, and they are aware of that routine and that practice. Other venues do not require, don't have it, don't offer that service, and so they ask that you or someone on your team runs the box office. On the administrative side of this, pick a friend that does really well in social environments.
Please.
So the support at hollywoodfringe.org email is available to all of you at any time, and we all reply. Right now, it's a 72-hour response time.
Yes.
During May and June, that goes to 24 response time, and what we see is it's less so artists and now audience members, whether it be for ticketing and things like that. There are the occasions where we get a support at hollywoodfringe.org email from an audience member who was like, I had a really, really bad time talking to this person at the box office, and it really did not make my experience feel good. We don't have control of that, and an audience member doesn't necessarily know that. They think they work for Fringe, and they don't. So what I just say is please put someone in the box office running it that is a people person or has worked in the service industry or
or also knows your show. You know what I mean?
Knows your show.
I think, to be honest, I've gotten a lot of emails last season where people were, for whatever reason, life happens, but the box office attendant person didn't realize the show was already starting a little later, and communication, that's also really important. So they should know your show, be able to answer questions.
And sometimes it might even be your director's running your box office and they know your show like the back of your hand. That's great. Other times it is I'm trading box office slots with a fellow Fringer.
Yeah.
And they get it. They just don't know the contents of my show. Yeah. It's okay. Honestly, just lead with kindness. We get less complaints if we all lead with kindness.
There's only so much we can do.
And there's also, there's not hey, we're going to give everyone a stern talking to. It's more of we just have to make sure everything's okay. No one's in trouble really at the end of the day because mistakes happen.
Yeah.
I'm just mentioning that because it has happened. Also, yes, there are signs on every single venue, but I mean, as you're coming into the McAdden, you'll see that the McAdden and the Madani share that patio space, and that does happen where patrons will go into different shows by accident. Same thing at a Broadwater or an actor's company where there's so many spaces, they'll accidentally walk into a different space. So when you're messaging patrons before the show, letting them know exactly where the show is and what's going to happen, and to be on time, because
parking,
again, that's
get here early, let them know.
And the reason why you want to message them, because just like today, where I messaged you about the LA Marathon, there's, I believe, Jamaican Mardi Gras that happens on Hollywood Boulevard. I mean, LA Pride happens. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why Hollywood Boulevard will get super congested and you can't actually get off of Cahuenga and make it to your show on time, especially knowing when the Hollywood Bowl is having shows during June. That's super important, especially if your show is at 5 o'clock and people are going to the Hollywood Bowl. It's wild. Just things to be aware of.
It's really intense.
So all of that. Here's the fun thing. So not following these guidelines may result. We live in a gray area world, and we are not here to police things. Yeah. We're here to give you guidelines, but only. Oh, okay. So this answers Aaron's question, because we've kind of come a different ways on Fringe. So only non-firing guns. This is Fringe's stance. Oh. Your venue will have other restrictions, but your venue will abide by these, I believe. So actually, we will tell them. So only non-firing guns replicas are permitted for use in the Hollywood Fringe Festival shows, and they should never be pointed in the direction of audience members. It happens. We can't supervise all of that. So at the end of the day, I trust you all to some extent, to do the right thing.
Please. Please do
this
your best.
second one is also huge with our clowning and immersive work. Any physical interaction must be consented to, both in rehearsal, which doesn't always get talked about a ton, and performances. I will also reiterate here, and for the live stream, Hollywood Fringe has a code of conduct. You are required, or you're required. Yeah, you're required
you're
to
required.
talk with your rehearsal team on the first day of rehearsals. Read through that packet together. You could print it out. I understand that printing is expensive, so you don't have to, but you need to read through it all together. That talks about Hollywood Fringe best practices, because at the end of the day, you, as the primary producer, are responsible for your team and your cast of creatives. And we do ask that it's a really good idea, and we do ask you to do it. Read that along on the first rehearsal. Usually, like before you do your table read, if that's your style of doing theater, do it day one, so that everyone knows. Because it's super helpful, and I spent a lot of time with the whole team and the Access board. Like this is a document that has been worked on and evolved, and also have had like, I don't know, plus 30 people eyes on it.
Yeah.
So we try to cover our bases and make sure that you know what's going on. It also discusses behaviors outside of rehearsals and performances, and just how you should conduct yourself
Within the community.
Within the community, whether that be virtual spaces like our live stream
Yes.
here, or
Social
or
media.
social media as well, and office hours. Again, we don't have the capacity to police and say, hey, you shouldn't do this, but we have a conduct at hollywoodfringe.org email specifically for these that does have 24-hour response rates throughout the whole year to kind of catch this. And if something does occur during our in-person spaces, feel free to come to a member of staff, or if you can't find a member of staff, a volunteer who will get a member of staff, because they are not the ones that you need to be talking to. But like, if you just need to find someone, they will send you to us so that you can have that conversation, and we can kind of start that conversation sooner rather than later. Yes.
Because we have like a few minutes left, I think. Right?
Yeah, I think this is the end. Let's see. Questions asked, Joe. We're skipping that. Final thoughts. Yay! We've been having all these thoughts.
We've
We're back
already
here.
said all that. Okay,
What
great.
time are we at, Stina?
We have like, what, 1 minute? 2 minutes?
Okay, all right,
Great.
before I go to the room, if there's any questions, are there any questions on the live stream? Great. I mean,
Well,
it's okay.
it's okay. I'm like, maybe
I
we
think there's a
shouldn't be
couple
too
of you on
excited.
there. It's okay, no worries. This is also for viewing after the fact as well.
Sure.
Are there any questions about some things I covered, about the soapboxes we went on, and the rest of the journey we had, with the remaining? I mean, we can cut the live stream and then just do questions also, but are there any questions? Yeah.
Really fast, really simple. In terms of like the ASL interpretation,
Mm-hmm.
once I toggle that on like my show page, do I have to worry about finding a person, or is that handled through you guys?
That's a great question.
Great
The question was, if I toggle the ASL icon on my project page, do I need to, or does Fringe do that for me? Right now, Fringe isn't at a level where we can do that. You clicking that icon means to us that you have someone, or that you are planning on booking someone. It is not us.
Paying someone.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, well, and again, that's where we give every producer their ability, because I know that there are some fringers even this year that like their cousin is a working ASL interpreter, so they might not be paying them, but they'll be like, it's that familial bond or that friendship bond. But yes, then there are ones where you like, if you go out to sign language company run with a wonderful team, including Nigel, that they will kind of break down what the fees are, and they have done Fringe shows before and Fringe events, so they're aware of what this is. Also mentioning if you're recording it during that time.
Oh, yeah.
There are different fees when you're like a live stream that's gonna be up for recording, and there's an ASL interpreter. There's like tends to be a recording fee, or if you're like, no, it's just a live performance, it's a different fee as well. Just things to be aware of when you're like on that journey. Any other remaining questions? This is a great question though. If not.
Okay.
Okay, I
Guys,
think we did it.
we did
This was so
it.
much information, so thank you all
Yes, thank you guys.
for being engaged and asking those questions. Yeah, that was okay. We are going to cut the live stream, and yeah, so bye. Oh yeah, Stina, it's just like that.
Thanks, live
yeah,
stream.
Yeah. You go for it.
Thank you.
you.